In conversation with Charles Nwoko. Charles Nwoko was born in Nigeria but lives in Finland. He's an academia and researcher specializing in environmental management and law, especially in climate change mitigation. He has been a university lecturer both in Finland and in Nigeria and was at a time a visiting professor at the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Nigeria. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to have on the show today, Charles Nwoko. How are you doing, Charles?
I'm not bad, Peter. I'm doing fine, just fine.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you on the show today. Quite exciting. We're having a
Yeah.
conversation around your amazing book. So, Charles, I want to first say congratulations on the release of your book titled Return of the Chibok Girl, which I found to be quite interesting and captivating when I read it. And I would like to ask you, what inspired you to write Return of the Chibok Girl? And how did you come with this title even to name a book?
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you for having me. Oh, well, I think Chibok gas is as old as many Nigerians, not only Nigerians, the international community
Yeah.
can remember.
Mm,
The whole inspiration comes from two sources. The first one is that it happened in 2014 when 276 schoolgirls were kidnapped and dragged away from their dormitories.
mm,
Unfortunately, not all of them are back, have returned to their parents, unfortunately. Then there was another kidnap by one of the schools by the name Leah Sharibu.
mm.
So that was the main inspiration because I happened to see a documentary where the parents of Leah were crying, wailing, if they would ever see their daughter again.
Yeah.
So that touched me.
Mm,
And the photograph they posted that time of a 14-year-old girl with her sunglasses hanging on her bro, it touched my mind actually. That I
mm,
started thinking of what to do. And my mind came to writing a book. And then the question is, which type of book am I going to write? So I don't want to write ordinary non-novel book, you know.
mm.
I don't want to write that, but I would like to write something, a story, as much as I can remember, as much as
Yeah.
I can think. So that's why I made it into a fiction. Sometimes truth is hidden in fiction anyway.
Mm,
So that inspired me. And other inspiration came from the two main characters of the book. That is Malik and
yeah.
Bridget.
Yeah.
Malik is a 16-year-old Muslim convert, a very good boy to say, who has
Yeah.
never rapped before, has never fought anybody, has been a cool guy, well brought up, despite the fact that he never met his parents.
Mm,
And then Bridget, on the other hand, is a 14-year-old girl, quite a nice girl, and they fell in love, but not in the usual way, in a very unusual way.
yeah.
That Malik has been teased many, many times by his colleagues that has never slept with a girl before. And it's true, he has never done that. And then they started teasing him that he should rape one of those abductees,
Yeah.
that the Chibok girls, which was not in his position, I mean his way of life. Eventually, he tried it. While he was trying it, he couldn't get close to the girl. Unfortunately, something from his past visited him. That was the date of
His mother.
his stepmother, who was raped by hooligans.
Mm,
Raped by hooligans, not only raping, raped to death. That
wow.
happened to Malik when he was only 4 years old. He couldn't live with that. So the day he was trying to rape Bridget, that that came to him, and he stopped. He stopped and became friends.
Yeah.
But Bridget was always afraid of him. but eventually British started trusting him. And
Yeah,
that is where the book started. But imagine
absolutely.
that in a Zambisa forest, it wasn't easy. It
Mm,
wasn't easy.
yeah. Yeah, that's actually an amazing description too, because I can follow on as you're talking about it. Because I've read the book and I can relate it to most of
Thank
everything
you.
you've said. Yeah, it's quite lovely and quite beautiful that you can even, bring out the story and relate it to the insurgents in Nigeria. And that actually would want me to move into my next questions. Knowing that your story follows the Boko Haram insurgency in northern Nigeria and the adoption of the schoolgirls in Borno State. Following this occurrence, why do you choose to write a fictional account on the story of the adoption of the Chibok girl particularly?
Yeah, well, in a way, I was thinking that the issue of Chibok girls reached the whole world. So many world politicians, international politicians, celebrities, their slogan was "Bring back our
I
girls."
guess, yeah.
So already, so the whole press, social media was awash with the story. So I decided to do something different. That is where I came to write as a novel.
Mm,
You know, because writing it as a novel could bring about the whole details, the way
yeah.
I talked myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. And I think to
Mm.
me, actually, when I read the book, one of the things that I brought out is the fact that it would help to preserve the story of the Chibok girl and to, have them in our memory as Nigerians and even as an outside reader to know that something like this happened in the past in Nigeria and to know that the disappearance of these children it's a tragedy to mothers in the northern part of Nigeria which some are still missing to today, and which some are still wailing even to today. So it's an amazing remembrance, actually. So that's a very great way to incorporate, in a novel. Thank you. Quite
Thank you,
commendable.
Peter. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And for the sake of readers who haven't read Return of the Chibok Girl yet, and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what we'd expect in terms of themes picking up the book?
Well, there are a lot of things to take home after reading this book. A lot of
Yeah.
things. First is that the fate of young girls below the age of 15 be adopted and thrown away. Some nowadays are married and their religion converted.
Mm,
And going through that happened 2014. There are many things you know, to
yeah.
take to get home, something like that.
Yeah.
Apart from the obvious, anyway, this is a novel that touched so many things. As far as that Chibok girls are concerned, it touched so many things. As a
Yeah.
writer, so I know what to do. Uh, People who might see that,
Yeah.
might see it and read it. But I think it's a wonderful book. I remember when I was writing it, some of my colleagues who were novelists went through some of the that are not published, and they liked it so much, and wish when it is published, they would like to have a copy to themselves and
Mm,
read. It's well written. It's well written. You have read
yeah.
it, so you will understand what I mean. It's well written and
Y-
funny in a way.
Yeah.
It's funny
Yeah.
in a way, but point because this is my way of writing. I write something that you should read and or you can read and feel bad. But the way I put it in a very funny way, because this is my another way of conveying stories to
Mm,
people. Something sad to listen to. So I soften it, make it to look as if nothing happened. But it
yeah.
is the point.
Yeah, I love your take on this actually. And as we are speaking about it, it got me remembering some things I read about the book. And I'd love to add this that there are themes of religion in the book. There are themes on war in the book. There are themes of love, as shown between Malik and Bridget. There are themes of belief. I mean, Bridget shared a different belief, aside from Malik. I remember having a conversation around the beauty toots, Malik trying to teach her what's acceptable in their religion, etc. And there's also team on the subject of education. Yeah. Subject of education. So that's quite amazing, really. I just thought about it. I remembered and I said, yeah, let me add it briefly.
Mm. And
Yeah,
if you look at the book, if you read the book, you find out that in some parts of the world, religion is very problematic.
absolutely.
So choosing Malik, a handsome boy, and Bridget, a very beautiful girl,
Mm,
how they could interact and put religion away from their
yeah,
lives, and present something
absolutely.
beautiful, which is love.
Absolutely.
So that's why I said there are so many things to take home
Mm,
about Return of the Chibok girl. So
interesting.
it makes the situation that is already bad, that the school girls have been kidnapped, taken away from their parents, from their school, or
Mm,
that you find love between
oh,
the two sides, you know, finding
yeah.
love, real love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I forgot to add the theme of tragedy in there too. I mean, yeah, very crucial too. There's so many
Yeah.
themes encapsulated in this single interesting novel, really. Yeah. Quite commendable. Quite commendable. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
sharing.
Peter. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you also have other titles aside Return of the Chibok Girl. Could you tell us briefly about your other titles, the other books you've authored?
Yes, I will. As my profile says, I studied mechanical engineering first
Mm,
and law and other subjects to PhD, the doctorate
yeah.
of technology. So one would ask me, what am I doing in literature? In secondary school, I never studied literature. I hated
Mm.
it.
Oh,
And eventually, at my age, this is the subject I like now, that I'm a novelist. I can say I'm a novelist.
yeah.
Having written up to 6 novels, 2 now are under publication. And that is, one is a thriller. The other one is a fantasy,
Mm,
which they are editing them and trying to publish.
absolutely.
The, the thriller, that is titled Poisoned Blood, Poisoned Book.
Wow.
I think it will come out this year, hopefully. It will come out this year. Is about a man who married his elder sister without knowing. That's why the
Oh,
title is Poisoned Blood. And the title of that first book of Poisoned Blood is Murder at the Campus. The professor, an intelligent professor, was murdered. And another person, a student, because of cultism in Nigerian universities. That's where this
mm,
book come about.
oh,
It was not a a bad guy that killed the professor. It was somebody else, a 15-year-old boy.
wow,
And the student, a civil engineering student, paid for that. He was executed by hanging.
wow.
That one is very pathetic. The first fantasy book I wrote was uh, Chronicles of a King. And The Birth of the Witch King. That was the first one published in, was it 2015 by
Mm,
an American publisher. And the one I'm writing now is the second book of Ikenga, the one that is already now edited. The publisher is editing them. I mean, that particular one
mm,
is the Unholy Trinity,
mm,
and the second book of Ikenga. It's almost 600 pages.
wow.
Is about how a government or a country can be ruined by corruption. But this is fantasy now.
Yeah.
I think that will come out this year too,
Interesting.
or
Wow.
first quarter of next year.
Wow.
And I have also written college books, Climate Change Revisited. It was published 2000 and was it 2013?
Wow.
Yeah, and many universities, had a view of it and liked it.
Interesting.
And the second edition is coming out soon, maybe within 3 months' time. So I tried to make the second edition of that Climate Change Revisited. So what I'm trying to say, I write on different formats: thriller, uh, fantasy,
Mm,
uh, college books, or things like that.
that's amazing. That's
And
amazing.
I've written and published children's book.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that too.
Yes, yes, it's in the internet now, and people like it. And uh, I think the rating is how many? Was it 4.5 out
Mm,
of 5? That's the rating by some 30 something, reviewers that time. Children
yeah,
like it. Yeah, it's quite a good book
absolutely.
for children. It's very funny too.
Yeah, I love the fact that you mention all of these things and the fact that you've written in different genres extensively. You've explored different genres, you've explored children's literature, you've explored, fiction and so many other genre, romance, fantasy, you call it, thriller, a lot. It's quite beautiful, really. And even educational books too, college books.
Yeah,
That's quite lovely. Well done, I'd say.
thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, yeah. Now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered in the process of writing your books and also ever since it got published?
Yes, as I tried to tell you earlier, people think about arts, social subjects, and science-based. I'm more of science-based.
Mm.
So I still have problem with the languages, mainly
Oh,
English language. And so that comes to editing, because the first editor is the writer who can go through his book before he could hand it over to some other people to edit
yeah.
for him. So I usually have problem with editing, you know. Sometimes I used to get help when I started writing from my daughter.
Mm.
She knew English better than myself at that time. Nowadays, she doesn't think that she should be helping me. So I battle with it myself. And good enough, I have this app that helps,
Yeah,
Grammarly. It
Grammarly,
helps in a
yeah.
way. It helps in a way. It helps me quite a lot. But what to write, I don't look for that. That's why, to me, I think writing is a kind of calling. Some people ask me, how do I write? I said, just write, because I have stories in my head.
Mm.
Somebody told me that he has a PhD in English language. Anytime he wants to write something, he doesn't finish even one page. So to me,
Mm.
that's why I say it is a kind of
The
calling.
calling,
It's
yeah.
like musicians. People
Absolutely.
get a doctorate in music, but they never can compose anything.
I thought,
This is the way I
yeah.
see writing. It's a kind of
Absolutely.
calling. Yeah. And again, I look at writing, mostly novels, as important, because in engineering, somebody may start arguing, how could someone reading a novel get help in machining? It helps, because if you look at a piece of machine, is it a car or bicycle or whatever? There are components. I look at that components as characters. There's some kind of characters you could see in
Mm.
a novel.
Mm.
It all depends what the characters are doing. Just it all
Absolutely.
depends what the different parts of the machine they are doing in the machine for it to work. So
Mm.
this is the way I look at it. I think when I was a lecturer, I used to tell my students that don't underlook anything. Some of them were engineering students. I told them that, how many novels have you read? Some say, why do they need it? So you must read it. It could help you in machine designing. They say,
Yeah.
how? All those parts, machine parts you look at, call them or label them characters. They are characters doing different works. They may be bigger characters and the characters, but they help the machine. to
Absolutely.
function, just
Absolutely.
as the characters in a novel will
Mm,
help your book to become a successful also.
mm. I love your take on that. And I love your take on that. Mesh saying that, all those parts of a machine as a role, even at small or minute that they may look to be, or they may seem to appear, they have a very crucial role that if one is missing, it might affect the functionality of the machine. And if the other
That's
is not
true.
available or is not sufficient, it could, develop a fault. So everything, every single part makes the whole machine to function perfectly. And that also goes online talking about characters and how they make good stories together. And I love the fact that you mentioned that writing is a calling. Very true, because
Yes.
you can even have
Thank you.
people who are graduates of English literature and has never sat down for once to compose a story or to write a single poetry, or you find people who are not even in this field doing it with ease. And that's why the topic of skills and talent come to be. Yeah, it's an amazing one, really. I agree with Twixer Collin. That's a book I was currently reading before I jump into this interview. And I was like, interesting. How did this author put these things together? I mean, the story keep going beautifully. The weddings are great. I was like, wow, this is a gift. It's a gift, really. It's an amazing gift. And it's quite commendable, really. More reason why I love promoting literature, spotlighting authors, because I feel that authors need more praise, more recognition, and more accolades for their works, because writing generally isn't an easy task.
I know. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite lovely. I love your answers to these questions. They're quite educative and very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah. Now, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with writing and publishing a book? What would you advise people in this category?
Advice can be a complex issue. It can be a complex issue, but the piece of advice you could give to somebody may be useless to him or to her. But for another person, it's like good. You have given the
Mm,
person good.
absolutely.
But the only thing I can say for young people who want to write, I've been in a conference, young people were asking me, I want to be a writer, I want to be a poet, I want to be this. I said, they are all beautiful, but can you make it? He said, yes, I can make it. So follow your heart.
Only hard.
Some people may tell you, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, why? Do you have the time for this? Forget about what they're telling you. Just follow your heart.
Mm,
The major advice that you have to be patient. Sometimes you could write a book. Nobody will come is interested in your book. But are you going to stop? No,
no.
you aren't going to stop. You continue writing.
Yeah.
Perhaps one day one can be successful and invoke those ones that you have uh, nobody wanted to
Neglected.
read.
Mm,
That's how it goes. It goes like that in life. One
yeah.
day I was reading my collections of the Jackson Five, their life history. I read somewhere that their first two or three records, nobody wanted to buy them, nobody wanted to touch them. But they continued
Mm,
until they showed the world that they know music and they can play music well. So it is also in writing. Likewise in business.
mm.
I was reading the life history of the founder of, was it CKF, this fast food, CKF,
Okay. Yeah.
that started his business at the age of 65 or 70 after trying so many things. He never succeeded
Wow.
until he succeeded at the age of that 70 or so and died at the age of 80 something, a billionaire.
Wow. Wow.
So that is life. So I will tell them that follow your heart and ask questions. Ask those who know. They will tell you. They will
Yeah.
tell you what they know or the problems they have encountered. So from there, you can model your own life or the way you write. So listen to instructions by those who know. Not everybody will give you any kind of advice that
Yeah.
progress you in whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I said earlier that advice is good. It all depends if the person is
Yeah.
going to accept that or not, or if the advice, a piece of advice you want to give out, is going to help a particular case. Like myself, when it comes to writing college books, I've written up to three. One of my books I wrote about environmental issues in the Niger Delta.
Yeah.
It had up to 400 citations
Wow.
by scholars
Wow.
up to that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
because apart from the climate change revisited, I've written three college books. So many people like it. Many academia like it. If it is
Interesting.
a novel, I think I can give an advice because I like to draw from my own experience and
Mm.
tell somebody who's interested, So when it
Yeah.
comes to writing, I cover many areas, not all, but some of them, like college books and thrillers and fantasy.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
like fantasy better because
Yeah.
it's easy to write fantasy for me. If you
Absolutely.
have a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your advice. And I'm hoping that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. Now, in case we have some interested viewers who are currently watching this interview and would love to get a copy of any of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
Honestly speaking, Peter, I have not made much effort in marketing, which actually is the biggest portion of writing. I
Yeah,
have not. I'm very, I'm not skillful in marketing, mostly book marketing. But I have been, of course, I can get my books in Amazon. But I'm making effort now. I've hired a book marketing company
yeah,
to help me out. So I will set that in motion probably before December,
great.
when my other two books will, uh, will be out.
That's amazing.
So honestly speaking, I'm not so good at it. Not so good. I prefer writing.
Yeah,
I prefer writing.
I think this is something very particular to most authors, actually. Yeah, the marketing aspect is where the actual business of literature
Yes.
lies in. Yeah, yeah. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers could get a copy of Shaz Nwoko's books directly on Amazon and also another platform. So thank you so much, Chas, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Peter. Once again, thank you for having me for this interview.
Yeah, it's my pleasure
Uh,
as well.
Let me start with you. I have not tried to uh, advertise my book or my talent in writing. You will regret it if you get any of these my books that you can see
Mm.
anywhere in Amazon. Or this particular one, Chibok, Return of the
The
Chibok
Chibok,
Girls.
yeah,
You will like it. Definitely, you will like it.
yeah.
I don't know how to advertise myself, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you as I am.
Oh my goodness.